Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jami.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives.
Welcome back to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle, and this is going to be a special episode today. Of course, I'm here with my handsome husband.
Hola.
And here with Phoebe Hagan.
Special guest.
Yes, we've been waiting to do this for a hot minute now. Yes.
Yeah.
So many things we want to talk about. So we called the episode Phoebe 2.0.
I'm really excited to be here, honestly. I'm kind of nervous, I'm not going to lie, but it finally feels nice to kind of announce that I'm on FitBody Fusion.
I know. I'm so happy.
Sorry.
And it's so nice to have you here in person, which is even better. So let's start by tell us your check-in word.
I had it in the car. Peace. Peaceful.
Ooh, I love that one.
Yeah, this morning I got up at around 6:30 or so and went upstairs to the roof and watched the sunset for an hour, 40 minutes. And it just felt very peaceful. So I feel like that's how I'm entering into my day.
I love it. Set the tone for the day.
Yeah, 100%.
I thought you were going to say something.
No, I wasn't. I might have been. I don't know. I was just thinking half six is just an interesting way of saying 6:30.
I know. I love her.
No, Phoebe,
British,
don't change it.
It's my dialogue.
No, don't change it. We love it. Yeah.
How do you say 1:45? Do you usually say 1:45?
1:45.
Okay, yeah. I say 1:45 as well.
Yes.
Everyone always, I think.
Some people go 6:45 or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Or we'd say quarter till, probably.
Yeah, I say 1:45.
All these little differences.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. Go ahead.
So for those that don't know who you are, because I feel like most do, but will you just give a quick introduction and tell everybody who you are?
So I'm Phoebe Hagan. I'm Phoebe Bikini Pro from the UK, owner of the Posing Portal, which is a posing platform. We were site-based, now we're app-based. I've been competing now, this will be my 9th year, which is, I'm crazy that it's gone so quickly. It feels like I first competed a year ago. It doesn't feel like that long. I've done 45 shows in the span of those 9 years. So a lot of experience here, there, and everywhere. And I'm a 2-time Olympian, 2-time Arnold Classic attendee, and Arnold UK.
I was going to say champion.
Yeah,
Yes.
Arnold UK champion in 2021. So yeah.
Yes. And so let's just roll it back and kind of start from the beginning of your journey. First of all, what got you into competing?
So it was actually my partner, Max. So I used to be a cheerleader, and I was a cheerleader for about 8 years. It was the only sport that stuck when I was a teenager. I tried basketball, I tried dance. I'd be in there for about a month and be like, nope, bored. So I went to cheer for the first time, and I was absolutely obsessed with it. I loved the performance of it. I loved the strength aspects, the dedication towards it. So did that for 8 years. And the facility moved next to a gym. And I remember being like, I want to, because I was a back boxer, I'm so tall. So I was the one lifting up all the people and all that type of thing. So I was like, I want to get stronger. I want to try and be able to help the stunt more. So I went to the gym next door. And I was like, training. I was like, I don't know what to do. I go into a gym the first time, and I don't know what to do. I want to train upper body, because obviously upper body is the main thing to kind of chuck up the girls. So I was like, okay, train upper body. And then I was like, I really like this. This is fun. Just training and just lifting weights and feeling heavy, feeling strong. It just felt nice. And then I met my partner in there. Actually, no, backtrack. I started working there. And then my first shift, I actually met my partner of 9 years there for the first
amazing.
shift.
Wow.
So he was like, I'll take you through a workout, whatever, all that type of thing. And then he was like, you should compete. You've got a really good structure and shape. You should look into bodybuilding. And I just was like, okay. And that was
Why
it.
not, right?
That was it. And then never do this. And I mean, obviously everyone knows to not do this. I think my first prep I did in 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we just cut all carbs. We did protein and vegetables and you know.
bro prep.
Yeah, the bro prep, you know, because, you know, we went look online, how to get lean for a bodybuilding show, broccoli and chicken. Okay, cool, we'll do that. Like that, and that's all it was. An hour of cardio a day, like straight away.
Oh, wow.
And then straight into it. But it obviously taught me a lot because I was like, this is really unsustainable. Like, I don't know if I did it for 4 weeks, how the hell would I be able to do this for like 12 plus weeks? There's no way. But we did go into my first show and I did win and I got overall as well. And that's where I think it kind of like sparked that kind of passion in me. Although before stepping on stage, I was very close to not stepping on stage.
Oh, wow. Were you got nervous?
I remember it so vividly. I was backstage and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm used to cheering and being up there. And like, that's not abnormal for me because we went on and we were like, you know, we had to pull all the faces. We had to be very characterized. But that was with a team. And I was like, I'm on my own here. And I'm also very vulnerable in a bikini, being judged by people I don't know and showing myself off to a lot of people. This is scary. And I remember like texting my partner being like, come backstage like now. And he was like, I don't feel comfortable. I'm really scared. Like, I don't know what to do. He was like, it's going to be fine. You go up there, see what happens. And then that's all you got to do. Just try and tap into your confidence. And that was it. And then that was it from there. And then I was like, I'm obsessed with this. As soon as I got on stage, I was like, this is incredible.
So as a cheerleader, you don't compete, you don't
No,
perform in bikini?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, this was, yeah. So this was obviously whilst I was still doing cheer. So there came a point where I remember I was doing, you know, cheerleading competitions and stuff in prep. So obviously in 2016 was my final year of, you know, competing as a cheerleader. We actually went quite far. The year before we went to, or 2 years before in 2014, we went to something called Worlds, which you have to obviously, it's like their version of Olympia. So It's like the biggest show in bodybuilding. And it was over in Florida.
Cheer's very competitive.
Yeah,
very competitive.
It's so competitive. So
is that ACA or is that one of the other federations that does the well? And actually, let me back up a little bit. So, because I'm just curious about cultural differences.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is all in the UK.
Well,
No,
the world,
so
the world
it's
is
the
the world.
No, that part. But
Yes.
I get that part. But where you were doing the cheerleading
yes,
at is
in the UK, yeah.
Okay, and so I'm not certain if that's the same or different. Is that at a high school level? Is it college? I mean, how does that?
It's completely separate. So we don't do it as like a high school or a college thing. It's just a cheerleading,
Competitive cheer.
just competitive cheer by itself. And that was
Okay.
pretty much it. Which is crazy because I always forget that obviously here you get scholarships for it. Like you can go to college and all that type of thing with it.
And there is that other side of it too, which is the
Mm-hmm.
competitive cheer. But most of the cheerleaders that do the competitive side are cheering for schools as well.
Yeah.
And it's more of a high school college thing, although it does take, go beyond that.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious that I'm always curious about how the differences cultural, treats that.
Yeah, so it's separate, which is kind of cool because then obviously there was loads of people from different areas. There was people from different schools, different areas, obviously in our like town and stuff, which was quite cool. And there's a few people traveling in quite far as well. But yeah, so then there came a point where in 2016 I was still doing shows, and obviously it's like doing like 3 minutes, you just constantly moving.
It's like a fitness routine equivalent. Yeah.
And I
Only
was
longer.
doing that in a prep, and I was like, I can't continue to do this. I either have to pick, I can't do cheer and I can't do bodybuilding at the same time because I'm exhausted, and then I can't, train and like bring my best. And I'm like, what's more important? I was like, I've done cheer. I think I've reached my limit with cheer, and this was when I was 21. I just turned 21, so I was like, I'm out aging it as well. So I think now is the time for me to swap and make it like a new journey of myself. And I started getting more invested in bodybuilding, and then turned pro in 2018.
And you do share that one little background piece with Amy Delgado too, who
yes,
shared
I
that.
saw her,
Higher, and then you were a base, like the two of you together.
I saw her doing flips on the trampoline the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I would love to, because I used to tumble and stuff as well. I'd love to actually see what my tumbling capabilities are now that I'm older. yeah, it's cool that we
Well,
both
if you
share
do
that.
it, just let's make sure we have some safety
No
considerations.
injuries,
around,
no
right?
injuries.
Yeah, no injuries, please. Don't want that. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into bodybuilding, and then I kind of never looked back.
I love that you shared that vulnerability from that first show and what that feels like. Because I know there's a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, that would love to do their first show. And like, everybody feels that way to start with. It's okay if you're nervous. It's okay to I feel like I remember my first time on the pro stage, and I was so intimidated, and I'm standing next to these women that have been my idols,
Yeah.
and then I watched how nervous they were, and I was like, oh, okay.
We're all the
It made me
same.
feel better just knowing that everybody
Gets
hits
that.
Yeah.
100%.
Do you still get nervous?
Yes, every time. Like, I think now more than anything, it probably is more nerve-wracking because I feel like I am taking it more competitively, like there's certain goals. I think before it was a case of doing it for fun, and I also don't think that that has left. Like, I'm still doing it for fun. It's still my hobby. It's still something I very much enjoy to do, but they're all are more competitive goals I have in mind.
It's almost like when you first competed, the nervousness there is around, oh my God, I'm going to be standing in front of all these people in a bikini, which is nerve wracking for sure. It's almost like performance anxiety. And now it's like, look, you're at the pinnacle of the sport. You're one of the top athletes in bikini. The pressure and the nervousness comes from a different source.
Yeah.
Because,
more like an expectation sort of.
Yes, expectations is correct. So like 100%. So, but that's what I think I'm definitely now going into the season, which we'll talk about it today anyway. But I think this season is definitely a different mindset where I'm looking at it, where I am focusing on it, but it's not the full front of why I compete. Like, that's the only thing I'm thinking about all day, every day, because I think that really sucked the life out of my journey when I was only thinking about that, it sucked out the enjoyment and stuff like that. So I want to try and make sure that in this prep is more enjoyable.
Looking for a little more balance.
Yeah, it's always hard because I think balance, or everyone always thinks of it as like you then don't care because it's not your full world. But I think you care more because you want it to be successful on both fronts instead of giving up everything. And then outside of it, you're like, okay, what do I have out of this now?
I totally do. And I feel like that's where you and I really connected when we were originally talking too, because I very much have that philosophy. And I feel like to be successful long term, you can't only solely be focusing on competing, because that's not real life.
No.
I mean, we have personal relationships, we have businesses, you have exciting things going on the business front that we're going to talk about, I know, more in our next episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we're whole human beings. Like, being an athlete, being a competitor is obviously a huge part of your life, and it's not the only part, and that's okay. And you can be just as successful, and in my opinion, more successful, because of the fulfillment from having a focus on more than just one aspect of your life.
Completely agree. And I think once I started to tap into that as I went into the pro league and started to be like, oh, I could get a business out of this, and I could, get more opportunity out of just being on stage, I started to open up so many more like avenues to what I actually wanted in the sport. Because I think before it was like, oh, I want to turn pro, I want to get to the Olympia. But then after that, I was like, okay, what do I want my like footprint to be? Like, I didn't want it to just be, oh, she won loads of times, or that's it. I wanted it to be more meaningful than that, where people could kind of be like, oh, I relate to her, or she makes me feel this way, or, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to be more,
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a big part of why people do feel connected to you, and you being open to sharing, and being vulnerable. And I know that, like, especially in today's social media world, like, a lot of people are only putting the prettiest picture in the best of situations, and not talking about, the struggles and the adversities and things like that.
Well, and even when they're posting some of the struggles and the adversity, some of that is curated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's designed for which is not a criticism. I mean, it's a step forward, but it is very much what you want people to see, right? And this sport is, as you were talking about that, this sport is very interesting, because I was thinking about, pro football, pro basketball, pro baseball, all these other professional sports. But bodybuilding is a different animal altogether, because it's equally as consuming. The mental part of this sport is so challenging. There's such a blend between the amateur and the the pro leagues, because you guys are competing in the same shows. It's like the NFL doesn't do a game and then, hey, we're going to have Pee Wee football or a college game that precedes it. It's this interesting world where you have got to figure out what's my place, and then balance that with real life, because if it does consume you, because the mental toll, and I don't know how else to describe it other than that, it's a toll, can be overwhelming and can break you.
Yeah. And I think that was me. I think when I came to you guys, if I'm honest, I was at my mental toll, if I'm honest, where I was, not sure if I wanted to either continue or not sure where I wanted to go with bodybuilding. And I think that 2024, the rest of the year after the Arnold in March, was pretty much just finding that again. And it feels nice to actually say that it is coming back. And I feel like it's like at least 70% there again,
nice.
Where it's like I feel like I want to step on stage for my reasons versus it being external reasons of I need to. Because I think sometimes it's hard, because I think as bodybuilders, athletes, we feel like it's a mandatory to compete every single year, or okay, we need to plan out a year based on bodybuilding alone or competing alone, which most of the time we do, but only so long that's going to take. Okay, now I need to think of this. Is this? Oh, I can't do this now because I've got shows, I've got this, and you don't look at it as like a good thing. You start to then resent it slightly if your mind's not in the right place. And I think that's definitely where I was at.
We talk about the difference between have to and get to.
Yeah.
And when you're in the have to mindset, that's a survival mindset. I have to compete. It's a survival. It clicks in the amygdala. It puts you in fight or flight. It brings up a negative feedback loop versus, hey, I get to compete, where you start leaning into the privilege of being able to step on that stage and the honor that you get to be standing next to other athletes, and just the joy of it. I mean, when you can find the joy in the prep and the joy in the process, even when it gets tough, that's when you're going to be at that next level. And I think that's where you're coming back to.
Yeah. I feel that really nicely.
I get to.
Yeah, I get to. That's what I like. I really like that.
So what year did you turn pro, and at what show?
So I turned pro in 2018, June 2018, in the Amateur Olympia in Spain. So the good thing with this was after the divide. So obviously there was the IFBB Elite and NPC. They split end of 2017 in the UK anyway. And then they started introducing Two Bros Pro, which is obviously the NPC over in the UK. So we were allowed to, get our pro cards through the actual NPC and all that type of thing. And there was obviously international shows and stuff. And the Amateur Olympia, there was 3 pro cards at the time. Yeah, 3 pro cards given out for overall. And I went to that show. And the good thing with some of the international shows is you can do a pro show the same day if there's pro shows available. So most of the time there usually is with Amateur Olympias. So I was able to get my pro card on the Sunday, 2 hours later compete in the pro show, and I got second, which was really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that was, and to be fair, I only knew that the day of, so I didn't know that I could go into it, because I was like, oh, I'm a new pro, like there's no way I'm allowed to just jump in. They were like, as long as you sign your contract and you get your pro card, that you can compete in it. And I was like, amazing.
I got chills. That's so cool.
I'm like, let's do it. I'm down. So, and I think I was only like 1 point away from the girl that got the first, which was really, really cool. And I think that from that point kind of, again, sparks okay, I am good enough to or I can see my potential where this can go. So let's see what we can kind of do.
Awesome. That is so cool. Yeah. I know I've heard some of the stories, because I know we don't have a lot of opportunities like that, but that's
just one.
Yeah.
Junior
you only just introduced that as well, last year. Yeah. So it's always been
And then this year
nice.
she added the men. Last year she just did the women, and now I think she's doing one on the pro show on the men's day and on the women's day. So it's kind of cool.
The closest we get, I guess, would be almost the amateur Arnold, in the sense that you can come back the next year.
But not right away.
Yeah, that's true. That's cool though. Yeah, but it was such an amazing moment, and I think from there it was, like I said, it was just a spark to continue.
So during so you've been competing as a pro for years, and what are the lessons? What are the things that you...
Can I interrupt? And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It
wouldn't be an episode without
me interrupting. That's accurate.
Did I jump ahead? Go ahead.
No, you didn't jump ahead. And we went right, and I want to go back left a little bit. I want to go a little bit into where you grew up and your family and brothers, sisters, all that stuff. And because I want, it's funny, it's thematically consistent with, I want to talk about more than just competing with you. And the cheering was wonderful, but I'd love to know a little bit more about, I love that you've been with Max for 9 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a great guy, and shout out to Max, by the way. So he's awesome, dude. But give us a little of the, grow up situation.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I grew up, so I'm from Worthing Town in the UK, which is close to Brighton, which is like 10 minutes away. And usually that's like where people know. And then it's like, I'd say an hour and a half away from London. So grew up there. I was a very sporty kid. Like I was always trying different things, like I was saying before. I was trying like basketball, I tried gymnastics, swimming, nothing really stuck fully. And like I said, until cheer. And I think that cheer allowed me to have, I always say this, it definitely did not think. It allowed me to have that discipline to take into bodybuilding for sure. Because my coaches, Andy and Brian of Zodiac All-Stars, they always would say to me, like, if you want something, you have to work for it. Like, you can't just do whatever and then expect great things to happen. Especially when we were working towards, the world's qualification and stuff like that. That was something we really had to bust our butt for. So it was really, really cool to be able to have that experience. And then my mum was always really, really sporty. Like, she did tennis, she did badminton, she did everything. She ran a lot. She did so much. Unfortunately, she did pass away when I was 20. So
sorry for your loss.
No, of course, it's okay. She never really, well, obviously she never saw me bodybuild. So it's always a very strange thing, because I'm always like, I'm a completely different person now to what I was when I was back then. I was very lost, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Whereas now I have a business, competing, all that type of thing. So I never really had, she never obviously saw it, but my dad, he is always so supportive, like through it all. I think at the beginning of bodybuilding, he was kind of skeptical, because obviously you are like, you've got a new boyfriend, you're now doing this weird sport, which is like you in a bikini on stage, like, what is this?
Right.
So he was kind of skeptical, but he's always a man that, like, I feel like all parents are like that. They kind of, once they're grown up, they allow you to do what you do and then come to you for, like, if you need advice or help or anything like that. So he did that, obviously, but he never really said it until literally, he only told me like a few years ago. He was like, I really didn't want you to do it, but like, I wasn't going to say you're not allowed to do it because you're 20. Like, I can't tell you what to do. He then came and saw one of my shows in 2017. That was my first one. And that was actually a show that I won everything at, which was cool. So I won the junior, the open, and then the overall. And he was like, wow, this is actually really cool. So he has been watching, and then he's gone to all of my Olympia shows and stuff like that. So he really supports it. And I think I've always had a lot of questions, because obviously a lot of people have seen him, and it's funny because people know him now. Like, the first Olympia, everyone was like, oh my God, you're Phoebe's dad. He's like, how do they know me? And I'm like, because because I always put you on Instagram, show your faces.
That's
and he's
so
like,
cute.
oh, he's so cute. So, and honestly, 2023, so many people were having photos with him. Like, more, like, they were coming to the stand like, can I have a photo with you and your dad? I'm like, yeah,
that is so
That's
cute.
awesome.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, like, it was, because when he came to the Olympia as well, he was wearing the kente cloth, which is her Ghanaian cloth. So everyone was like, love
Wait,
the
is it what now?
It's a kente, I'm probably butchering the name, a kente cloth.
Okay.
So it's like a big wrapped cloth, which is what they wear at a lot of like big events, weddings and stuff like that in Africa and stuff.
Okay.
He wore that to both of my Olympias, and they're like, love the cultural representation. Wow. I'm like, yeah, I know. He's very proud to be, he's from Ghana. So I'm half Ghanaian. He's always supported. And going back to what I was saying with the family side of things, I think people always find it tough to either tell their parents or translate to their parents saying, this is what I'm doing, because you all of a sudden see your child not eating and, doing loads of cardio, going to the gym, and you're like, what is going on?
My dad freaked out a little in the beginning too, so I can so relate to what you're saying.
I can imagine. And I've had it so many times where people are like, how do I also, from a cultural aspect, it's not something that is always looked up on, you know,
Right.
like in terms of like from African parents and stuff like that. And I always say to people, like, try and just show them and like talk to them and communicate to them more what you're doing. Because at the time, it's obviously very hard to be like, oh, I'm doing this. And they're like, well, I don't understand though.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, why are you doing this? And I think you just have to be patient with it. Because my dad didn't get it for a long time. And once I started to like be like, oh, we're doing this and that, he's like, okay, this makes sense now. Because he just wants to know that I'm actually okay.
And I think that goes beyond parents, right? We talk about a lot of this is building that circle. Is so important for bodybuilders, and more than I think as much as anything else, is that if you don't build a circle around you of people that, hey, they don't have to live the lifestyle, they don't have to they don't have to do it with you, they don't have to compete, but they do have to understand. They do have to embrace the fact that, okay, you're doing something and it's important to you, and if it's important to you, that's your why.
Yeah.
It's important to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I think some people in some people's circles, they like to criticize the dieting. They like to criticize, why are you bringing Tupperware to the restaurant? Yeah. You know, why are you doing cardio at 6 a.m. or whatever is the thing that is outside of the norm. We find that the people who have people around them that are not supportive of that, they don't embrace it, man, those athletes have a hard. In fact,
it's hard enough with support.
Yeah, even with the support. I would say the athletes that don't have that support circle around them, they have a really hard time in this sport if they're able to even make a go of it at all. Yeah.
No, 100%. No, I completely agree. And I think it's always hard and sad when you hear it like that, where the athlete can't continue because of their surroundings or the environment they're in. I always try to say, it's easier said than done, but try and take yourself out of that environment and put yourself in a better one. Even if it is family, you know, like sometimes it's come to the conclusion that I've had a couple of posing clients, and they're like, I'm struggling really like a lot with, you know, parents. My parents don't understand it. They don't want me to do it, but like, I want to do this. Like, I'm finding it really hard. Like, what do I do? And I'm sometimes like, if you can, like, obviously either show them more and why it's important to you, or kind of maybe even distance yourself and kind of say like, look, you don't respect my boundaries of what I want to do. So I am going to step back. And sometimes that is like, it's a kick to them, and they're like, oh, maybe this is really important to them. And then they're open to actually listening. Because sometimes, you know, you say things, you're like, oh, don't do that, or you're not allowed to do that. Or you can't just allow you can't say that to people. Sometimes you have to kind of allow them to show them your why and stuff like that.
And I really want to foot stomp that moment, because I think that's so critical, is that I think a lot of people, they will feel the bristling of family or friends around their lifestyle choices, and instead of having the conversation with them, they will just say they're just not accepting of it. And I understand that, because the family's sitting here seeing what they see, and it's easy to judge that and then say, and not be supportive of it because you don't understand it. And if there's no conversation, then there's no decision. So I've seen some people who just say they just don't embrace it. And then the next question is, well, have you had the conversation with them?
Yeah.
And I'm surprised at how often they say, no, they just wouldn't understand. It's like, how do you know?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that conversation of why is this important to you? And I think speaking as parents, but also speaking as friends with people, is that if somebody tells you the why they want to do it, you don't have to like it. You just have to respect it and support it. It's not a question of like or dislike. It's a question of, okay, I love you, and if this is important to you, and then I will support it. And it's that conversation becomes so, I think, the critical part, and just telling somebody, I want to tell you why this is important to me, what I get out of it, how it makes me a better person, how it makes me feel, how it makes me evolve. Those are the things that really can be so compelling to people. And I don't think if you're on the outside of this world, you may not get that.
Interested in changing your life or stepping on stage? Join FitBody Fusion today.
Experience the FitBody Fusion difference with tools, knowledge, and community support to reach your healthy and sustainable lifestyle.
We guide thousands on their fitness journeys, from seasoned athletes to those who are simply seeking a healthier life.
Our expert coaches provide personalized plans and unwavering support, empowering you to thrive.
FitBody Fusion is more than just training. It's a community. We understand the challenges of solo fitness journeys, which is why we foster a supportive environment where members encourage and motivate each other.
Join the FitBody Fusion community today and unlock your full potential.
Head to fitbodyfusion.com to sign up for a free consultation.
And do it today.
No, I can't add anything to that because I completely agree. Like, it's really important to have communication, especially with friends, because I think friends are probably like, so family is family, and family will always be there, I think.
Right.
In most scenarios, but I think friends can definitely distance themselves. I know I have had times where I've wanted to have more connection with friends and haven't been able to have that because of, prepping, or I can't come out tonight, I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm trying to always put myself in a situation where I can adjust. So I'm, if we go out, I won't drink. Or if we go to this place, I'll bring my food. Like I try and do my best to be able to do that. But obviously there becomes a certain limit where I'm like, oh, I have to prioritize sleep. I have to do this. I have to focus on my whatever in the morning. So, but I also think good circle and good friendships will allow you to respect what you're doing and come back to you when you're ready. Sometimes I'll see my friends, I come to the US however many times a year, and for months at a time sometimes, so I won't see my friends in Dubai or the UK for months, and they're like, right, catch up, a big catch up is needed, let's make a big event of it. And I'm like, those are my girls, those are my people. And I'm like, that's nice that they can like put me on pause and not be like, why aren't you doing this with us? Why aren't you doing this? Because they know I'm not doing it. I'm not dismissing them on purpose, and that's why I think good friendships are.
And if you have a really good friend circle, they're figuring out ways that we can accommodate
Yeah.
your lifestyle and still do something. And we talk about this a lot, is that decoupling food from fun, and alcohol from fun, is that you can have fun and connection with people, with it. And those food and alcohol are not required.
No.
To have those moments of connection, those moments of just intense, just feeling of that family and that goodness around you. I think it's easy to get caught in the trap of, well, there needs to be food involved or there needs to be alcohol involved. Yeah. And I do not believe those are required.
No, I completely agree. Yeah. I think it's hard because I do think sometimes people think that they need to get a certain feeling from like the night, or if I don't drink, I'm boring, or if I don't eat, I'm boring. So, or people
or if
judge
you don't
me.
Stay out till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it before, and I've been on prep, and I just have a Red Bull sometimes, at 11, and it's fine.
A sugar-free Red Bull.
Yeah, sugar-free. Yeah, sugar-free.
Oh my God, if I had a Red Bull at 11, I would never sleep.
It's just steps. It's just, you can get some steps in, because I love to feel connections with people as well. Like, I like to go out and have fun and dance and stuff like that. So I don't think it's not required. Obviously, there's a certain point where you have to obviously limit it, obviously. But I do feel like it's all still obtainable to do whilst, competing. And it's not a case of giving up everything, like we were saying before. Like, I think that's something that I have definitely, coming into FitBody Fusion, I've realized more that I don't have to sacrifice everything to be this one person that I want to be. And I'm starting to see that now, which I've never seen before, which is really nice to feel that, if I'm honest.
I know I'm just talking too much, and I'm
but I
do think at some point when you've sacrificed everything to become that person, when you're at the end of that, you may not know the person that you've become.
Yeah.
That your identity gets so tied to all those sacrifices, and then and you wake up one day and you say, oh my gosh, who am I now? And what do I have? And so I think expanding that view to your identity and what you want to be and how you want to be that person. And I think that you really personify that in so many different ways.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's been a tough journey to get here, obviously. Like, it's not been easy. I know that. And it's hard because when I look back on my journey, I don't think I sacrificed everything, which I'm glad I didn't. But I think it made it harder thinking I had to, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Which is even worse, in a way.
Because if you're thinking about the things that you didn't sacrifice, then part of you is thinking, "Oh my God, I'm less than, or I'm not enough." Right?
Yeah. I think that's what I was always going through, the mental tug of. I didn't feel enough. In a lot of different scenarios, not just competing, because I wasn't putting my all into this because I was competing, or I wasn't doing this because I was not competing, So it became very tough, but I think now I feel like I've managed like a good balance in trying to do that. I still struggle, and I know that on a daily with every time I check in and I'm like, Jami, I've done this. And she's like, it's okay. I'm like, it's weird when you say like it's okay, because for me, I really am hard on myself with it when I'm not, doing this strategically. But I think it's, again, learning to have that balance.
Right. And the seasons. And I think that's part of it too, is like we have seasons in our lives. And, but I do want to talk a little bit about, because I think what you just talked about in terms of the friends and the family and the support structure, like that's a huge lesson. And I think it's something that people can take and like really think about in their lives. We know we talk a lot about that, is how do we communicate, or sometimes setting boundaries or things like that. What other lessons do you feel like, because you've been doing this for years now, you've had time to kind of hone your craft, you've had times to kind of, dive in, maybe not give yourself, like, what would you say are the biggest lessons that you've learned that you're going to now take forward?
I would say, on the topic of communication and obviously friendships and all that type of thing, I think communication with coach is, anyway, because I feel like for me, it became, when I first joined, I found it really hard to communicate and feel vulnerable, because I don't know, I felt like I was already in a very vulnerable state when I came to you. So, or very closed off state when I came to you. So I feel like I found it really hard to open up and say, this is how I feel. I feel not great, or I don't feel this, or I feel that. Because I was always really hard on myself when I did feel like those times. So, for example, when I'm feeling down or I haven't stuck to diet, I know I wouldn't check in with you. I'm going to be open and honest with it. I wouldn't check in, and you're like, hey, where's your check-in? And I'm like, I haven't stuck to anything because of this. I'm feeling like this. And you're like, it's normal, it's okay. And I think there's been a lot of times where you have had to reassure me that a lot of my how I felt was okay to feel like that, which it just felt strange to me sometimes. So I think my whole point of me saying that was to try and allow yourself to not always be perfect, because I think that in itself, don't get me wrong, you need to have structure.
Sure.
But I do think having structure and being in a routine isn't the same as being perfect, because your structure and routine isn't always going to be perfect. And sometimes it takes a while to find your patterns and where it feels comfortable for you. But I think trying to take away that everything needs to be perfect mindset all the time, which is weird and controversial, me saying that, but I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, is like, it's okay to not, everything's not going 100%, all the time. Being okay with that is fine, because then you can move on easier and to know, okay, what do I do next? Like we were talking about in the car about being adjustable and stuff. I think that's really important in bodybuilding. Really, really important. So I think that's the biggest lesson for me.
I love that and that's so vulnerable. And I love so much that you shared that, because I do feel like, in the beginning for us, it was very much that building that trust that you can express to me, I'm here to help support you. And, kind of talking about those seasons of the journey, to me, when you are taking, especially an extended improvement season, there should be enough flexibility built in to where you don't feel like everything is, oh gosh, I messed up because I went 1 gram over here, I did this or whatever. So, us kind of finding that sweet spot for you where you're tracking your food for a portion of the week, then you've got a couple of days that you don't have to track and you're still being mindful. Like, it's kind of like finding, and for each individual, that's going to look different.
Yeah.
Like, what is doable for you and feels good? It has enough structure around it and yet enough flexibility to where you don't feel pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And then we know down the line, once we do shift into a different mode, okay, then things will have more structure. But then it's like, why put too much structure too far out? Because I feel like a lot of times people do that and it burns them out. And then by the time you need to really put the structure in place, your gas tank is empty.
Yeah. And I think it's more like, we were discussing this yesterday, it's more sometimes of a mental thing than anything. Like, mentally, you're more burnt out because you are having to do X, Y, Z constantly all the time. And it makes you feel like, okay, if I do this one thing wrong or like one thing slips up, okay, I've botched the whole thing, So I do think that I'm getting used to that for sure. And I do really like how we've kind of gotten a good groove now. I think it's just a case of just figuring everything out. And I think it's not a bad thing to still be working everything out for sure. But no, I've enjoyed the journey. So
I love it.
We talked about how in the car about being an oak versus being bamboo.
Yeah.
And how the oak in a strong wind will break. And the other analogy or the metaphor that we've described this as is that the tighter you are, the more disciplined and the more structured that you've built your approach or your process, is that it's like tightrope walking on a piece of dental floss versus walking on a sidewalk. Like I would much rather walk, if I'm going to walk across a cavern this 3,000 feet deep, I would rather walk across that cavern on a sidewalk than on a piece of dental floss.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the metaphor that resonates most with me, is that why would you want to build that level of discipline? And part of it is that I think it's almost a lie that you tell yourself that if I don't do this, other people will. And, there's that phrase that nobody's going to outwork me. And it's like, that's not the point, man. And I think about Sebum's acceptance speech, I think two Olympias ago, right? Where he said, this prep, I allowed myself to feel everything and it was way different. And I do think that's the big mistake that a lot of people make and that you've discovered is that we're not robots. And if you don't acknowledge how you feel in that moment and you bury it and you stuff it down, that feeling doesn't go away. No. It's not like it's gone, and it will eventually bubble up and then it will become all consuming, versus if you took the time to allow yourself to feel it and embrace the fact that, hey, today my 100% looks a little different than it did yesterday. But I know if I gave 100% today of what I can give, 100% should always be a factor of what you can give, not what you have the potential to give. Because everybody has the potential to give a little bit more. But if you're I'm not one of those people who believes that, hey, 110%. Well, there's no such thing as 110%.
There's no such thing.
If you're at 100%, you're at 100%.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like for you on that day, if you're doing your best, then embrace that. Feel what you're going to feel, process it, and then figure out, how am I going to use this? How am I going to use this feeling to then propel me to that next level? John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches, he says, you cannot remake yesterday. And the only way to influence tomorrow is to focus on what you're doing today. And that is that being present. But if you're walking on that tightrope, you're thinking about, oh my God, what's my next step, instead of where am I standing right now?
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, like I think it's hard because I'm very much the type of person to look into the future. So I'm always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? But I think I've really, really noticed, like, it doesn't always do me good when I'm constantly only thinking about what's next, because I don't appreciate what I'm doing in the moment, what I'm doing now, and actually realizing what is actually going on and what's happening most of the time. So yeah, I think the last year has been a lot of internal work, but it's been really nice to be able to do it, because it's something that was very overdue, for sure.
And I know people have been kind of from day one.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Who's coaching you?
Every question, any question box I put up, who's your coach? Who's your coach? And I was like, this is the first time, I think, because we've been working together for 9 months, going on 10 months now. Yeah. And I've kept it quote unquote a secret, because I was like, I don't want opinions. I want to just do what I'm doing and enjoy the moment that we have together, versus having any external factors kind of coming in and saying, oh, this. I didn't want anything. So I just wanted it to be an experience where I can just enjoy it, versus it being the whole world having to know about it, if that makes sense.
And I'm glad that you made that decision and we talked about it and did it together, because I do feel like it gave us that time to, form our own relationship, figure out how to make this a joyful, fun process for you, like work on our communication without, because I know people have their input, which, everybody, of course, everybody's got their perspectives and things like that. So I think it's been really cool, like getting this chance, and then now you being here, so we get to spend a little bit of time together.
It's been really, like, it's funny because I've known you guys for years. Right. I've known you for years. You've been at basically all of my shows. And I'm always like, hi guys, how are you? Like, so it's nice now to actually be on. And I think honestly, one of the main reasons as to why I came onto FitBody Fusion was because of the team aspect. Like, I remember speaking to Amy before, spoke to Anya before, like, what do you think? And they were all like, it's a no-brainer. Like, you will feel so loved here. You'll be so taken care of. Like, and I was like, at the time, and even now I know this, I needed that. I just wanted care, and it feels really nice to be here. So thank you for having me.
We are blessed and honored, honestly. Blessed and honored. Those are my check-in words today.
Thank you.
Check in, check out, check all.
Love that.
So I know people are wondering, before we start to wrap up, like, what's next for Phoebe?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what what are you wanting to share in terms of what's next for you?
Well, I mean, obviously I said it to you yesterday, like, I am thinking about doing shows and I do want to compete again. I think for me, it's just, which you do keep reassuring me, and I do really appreciate you for that. Like that, this prep is going to be very, very different. And I said, I do want to compete this year. Like I think at the beginning or going into this year, like the end of last year, I was kind of like, I do want to compete, but only if I'm ready. And I think I'm now finding myself being like, okay, but what does ready feel like? Because for me, I was like, okay, I don't want to be stressed with business. I want to make sure that everything's in order and everything's good and basically running itself, so I don't have to worry about that. I want to feel in a good position, muscularity-wise, to be able to get there, be in a better position food-wise, like mentally, more than anything, be wanting to do it. And I think I'm like trying to figure out if it's my normal habit, because every year it's like, oh yeah, when am I competing? Like when's the show? Like, you know, it's normal like to be like, okay, this is what's going on next. What shows are we doing? But I actually want to look into like, okay, do I actually want to compete, or am I going back to my habits of like, okay, cool, what show am I doing? So I'm in that position at the moment, I think, and I think I am wanting to compete now more than anything versus it being a habit. But it just depends when, and it just depends like when we want to do it. But I am doing a High Rocks in April, so which is very random, and I wanted to do that because it's something different, and I've really enjoyed functional fitness, and I've enjoyed running a lot. So I do want to kind of like do that to kind of be like, I've done it. I'm really happy with, being able to compete and do that. And then we'll kind of say, okay, what are we doing next competing wise?
Yeah, so I love that, because our focus really a lot has been bringing that joy back into the movement and to, what feels really good for you, so that you can get to that place again, to where you have that clear mind of like, okay, I do want to do this, or I want to do that, like getting back to that, like just loving the joy and loving doing what you're doing. So it's cool to see you like getting to that place and having fun with it again, and doing the things out of an enjoyment, not an obligation, because I think that's probably kind of felt more obligatory instead of I'm doing it because this is something I love.
100%. And I think that's why I probably ventured into functional fitness and like running more, because I think bodybuilding, when I think like obviously in March last year, I think everything that bodybuilding kind of had was very much like I just wanted to step away from it. So when you were like, let's track, I was like, in my head, I want to, but I just can't track right now. So we were intuitive for a long time. I wanted to do training sessions, but I was like, I don't even want to go to the gym to do these sessions. Like I feel like I'm not enjoying myself. You were like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to do my classes. I want to try running. You're like, okay, let's do that. But let's try and still keep in, some training sessions, because I want to make sure you're not losing muscle, all that type of thing. So I think the last year has really been like trying to balance a little bit of everything, but like try and keep the enjoyment there more than anything, but without losing too much of the bodybuilding aspects. Because I was like, I know I'm going to, be upset if I get to the end and be like a string bean and like, cool, I've lost all my muscle and now I'm going to have to rebuild again. But I think we've managed that well. I think we've managed it very well in terms of what we're doing, and we're in a good position. So it's just a case of when now.
I do want to go back. First of all, the High Rock sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you've embraced that, because I do think competing in functional fitness is a lot different than stepping on stage, because it's more definitive. I mean, what your time is, and and so it's a little bit more. There's a little bit more predictability, but there's more closure. You're not walking off the stage thinking, I look better than that other competitor. Why didn't I win? And I want to, you said something, and and this is more for people listening, but also a little bit for you, is that focus on being prepared, not on being ready. Okay. And I've told the story about being a parent and preparing for your child, but when they're born, you're never ready. Where I learned this is at airborne school in the Army, where I'm afraid. I've told you this story is. I'm afraid of heights, and so I go to airborne school, and airborne school was 3 weeks long. And the first 2 weeks, you're learning how to fall, you're learning how to land, you're learning how to deploy your chute and everything like that. So you're preparing yourself, okay, and then on that Monday of the third week, which is jump week, you go up in the plane and you're at 1,200 feet in the air going 200 plus miles an hour. And because I was the ranking person, I was the first one in the door. That door goes up and it's like, okay, damn, I ain't ready for this. I'm not ready for this. I hope I can say shit. I ain't ready for this shit, okay? I also know that I have other soldiers behind me, they're all looking at me. And so if I don't go when that light turns green, it's just not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
So there was no choice. I mean, in my mind, there was no choice. I'm going when that light turns green.
Ready or not.
And I just did not think about being ready, but I knew I was prepared. And so when I'm standing in the door, literally standing in the door, I'm not thinking about what I'm afraid of. I'm thinking I'm prepared. I just spent the last 2 weeks learning all these things. And when I exit this aircraft, I'm prepared. I wasn't ready. I'm just not ready for that.
Yeah.
And I think, for you to get back on, when you get back on stage, you ain't going to be ready, but I can damn sure assure you, you are going to be prepared.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be allowed to embrace that moment and all the flood of emotion that's going to come with that. I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, Phoebe, because the stage, I don't know if you need the stage as much as the stage needs you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I like
that. Because you bring a grace and an elegance to the sport that
you're by far one of the most amazing ambassadors for the sport. I mean, across the board, like I just see, and I get a little emotional because I feel so honored to be working with you and coaching, because I really think so much of you, and not just obviously you're an amazing athlete, you have incredible physique, but who you are as a person, the way you treat other people.
That's the thing.
I see you go above and beyond. If somebody has a question for you or wants some help with something, you helped me with a client yesterday. I'm like, hey, do you want to come up? You're like, sure. And you I just see how much you give back, and it just, it inspires me. And so I'm.
And all of our athletes are bringing something a little bit different, which I love, because I think you've got to figure out what you're going to bring, and what's your brand. And so Amy brings this Native American background, the mother, how she approaches it. I think of Maria Costa. Maria's bringing this a little bit of stoicism, but that flair and that Latina, kind of vibe. And so she's got something. Everybody's got, and those are just a couple. But Jordan brings this, straight discipline and just very focused approach, and very, very passionate, very much of an ambassador for the sport. So everybody's bringing something. And if I went down the list, we'd be another hour on the show. So, I'm not leaving anybody out. I'm just saying that everybody brings something a little bit different to this sport. It is one of the things that makes the sport really diverse, is that everybody's got their thing. But there's so much more in common that you guys have than there is that you have different, which I love that part.
I love that. Well, thank you for the lovely, kind words, guys. It really means a lot. And like, for me, again, like we said in the car, I was like, I don't want to just be another person stepping on stage. I always want it to be a meaning behind it. And I think that's why I struggled probably maybe a little bit, because I think I put maybe too much on that.
Maybe.
Where I was, really, really like, right, let's really push myself to the point where I really put myself out there and try and do as much as I can. And I think that kind of was hard, but I do really feel like, one, thank you for all those like lovely words, and two, like I feel like I'm excited to kind of embody that person again, but just in a way that's enough for me. I
love that.
There's no doubt that you are
enough.
enough. There's no doubt that you are enough. And I do think a lot of people struggle with that mindset in this sport is, am I enough?
Yeah.
I can assure you, you are enough. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'm so excited because I know we're wrapping up this episode, but we are going to do another episode with you, because we've got to delve into all that you have going on with the posing portal. And I want to ask you so many questions about posing, because you are the guru. So we're going to come back. So watch for this next episode. But before we go, where can people find you? And so tell people a little bit about, we don't want to go too deep since we're going, but give them some ideas as to how they can find you and what you've got going on.
If I'm honest, just go onto Instagram, type in Phoebe Hagan, you'll be able to find me there. And like, if you just click the link in my bio, you can find my YouTube, you can find the podcast, you could find the posing portal app, like all the details there. So pretty much just go to Instagram and you'll be able to find everything there.
And Phoebe, P-H-O-E-B-E.
Yes, O-E-B-E, not Phoebe. Because a lot of people, we had the discussion before, Phoebe is not how we say my name.
No, nor is it pronounced Phoebe.
It's not. So Phoebe.
Sorry.
Okay. How would you spell it again? So, but yeah.
Are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Then I need to say, we need a checkout word. Yep.
Grateful. Because I'm very grateful to be here with you guys. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're grateful you're here too.
I'm working on coming up with some kind of a shtick to just say what I'm going to say now. And I don't have any lead in because we didn't drop off of it. So I guess what I'm going to do for today is I'm going to take on my own British accent and I'm going to say,
did not expect that.
Well, it's very horrible because I don't speak the Queen's English quite as good as you do. But if I can say,
that sounds Texan.
It does. It is a little Texan, and I can drift into that.
Irish. I was going to say it sounds Australian.
I can drift into that.
Yeah.
Oi. Okay. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel and leave your reviews because we really appreciate those, even for those blokes in the UK.
Oh my God!
I know,
you got the when you said blokes, that's very much a UK-esque word.
Right.
So that was good. That was good.
One of my
you got a little bit of approval there.
It sounded very much Australian, but that's okay. When you said blokes, I was like, okay, that's fine.
I had a sergeant major who was married to a lady from England, and he said, "Do your English accent when you meet her." And I said, "No, man, she's gonna know." And so I did it, and she looks at me like I'm on crack, and she said, "That's horrible. That's horrible.
Wrong.
That's just
Please
horrible."
immediately stop right now.
It's okay. I can embrace that.
Oh my God!
Being horrible at something has never prevented me from doing it, so it's all right.
Keep going. I have no doubt the next episode we'll get that British accent better. That's
Probably
not.
No.
So remember the 3 B's, everybody.
Be good to yourself.
Be good to each other and be safe. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.